Good evening and welcome to the Law Committee's budget hearing. It is October 19th. It is 5:36. Let us please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Law Committee members present. Mr. Gully. Here. Present. Councilmember Soriento. Here. Councilmember Steele. Present. Also here this evening, Council President Mantello ex officio, Councilmember Conley Wilson, Councilmember Men, and Councilmember Figueroa is absent. We have to present this evening our Corporation Counsel Rick Morrissey and our Controller Andy Petrusky. And I'm going to turn it over to you, gentlemen. You can flip a coin as to who starts first. 81. Okay. We are on page 48.
48. We'll start off 48.
We let it see. Do the right thing, Chris.
Legal thing too.
Right, legal. It is legal. There are no laws.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. The increase in permanent salaries, there is an increase to the corporation council salary from 93,000 to 104,000 that I'll let Rick talk about. The increase in the salary for the title searcher is contractual under the CSCA
contract. The reason I requested the increase for the corporation counsel is whoever, it won't benefit me personally, but whoever comes into this job, you need to be competitive. This is brings it in line with the controller's salary, and it also differentiates it appropriately, I think, from the deputy salary.
The salary savings that's reflected of $7,000 is from a deferred hiring date of the full-time deputy corporation counsel until February. Go back to page 46. Kept most of the accounts the same, as you will see, with the exception of an increase of $20,000 in bond no expense. 75,000. The basis for that increase is that this account itself pays for all debt related costs specific to the city's bond council for all city debt across all funds. As we talked about on Tuesday night, water will have EFC debt transactions next year, hopefully with the conversion of the long-term debt, the first phase of the transmission main project. I'm sure there will be some sort of activity on the CSO project. If the city is awarded the $18.5 million, well, the grant that was associated with the $18.5 million bond resolution for improvements to the water plant. That has to be financed through EFC. And it also leaves flexibility and hopefully enough of appropriation available so that if the city wants to issue long-term debt, traditional debt issuances, that it will have the money available to do so. Because that is a separate cost from the short-term debt issuances. Are there any questions?
Sure. Andy, on the consultant service line, year to date, 38,188, where are we actually at?
That's, oh.
To date, we're at 200, well, for B 142409, we're at the $287,000. Bonded note expense, $44,000.
Is that on top of the 287?
So the first lot, there's three consultant services line, the 409 that's budgeted for 450,000. As we sit here today, we processed vouchers totaling $287,000. For the $75,000, we processed vouchers totaling $44,000. And litigation expenses, which is budgeted for $25,000, year to date, we've spent $10,700.
You expect it will cap out at 450,000 by the end of the year with that, with our consultant services, and going into next year, I know we have other things to do. We did one, is it enough this year, and one will be, and two will be enough next?
It'll be hopefully around 450. I mean, there are some very major cases ongoing that are expensive, that are paid for out of this account. Next year, I mean, hopefully that's enough. I mean, it depends on Corporation Council's philosophies and the amount of litigation the city's facing. And keep in mind that this account, 409 account, is used for both litigation against the city along with labor council. So there's a lot of variables that go into where that account falls at the end of the year.
And on the personnel summary, I'm just the deputy corporate counsel. These are attorneys,
Yes.
part-time. Oh, part-time. What's the definition of part-time?
There is no firm definition, so I'm sorry, Jim.
Average hour
They
per
each have different areas.
Yeah.
And they require different amounts of work at different times of the year. Dan Vincelette, only puts in for, I think, 9 hours a week or something like that. But he's often here much longer than that. He puts it in all year long at the same amount, because that's how he likes to do it. But he handles all our in-rem foreclosures.
Yeah.
And a lot having to do with real property, works closely with the assessor and with the title searcher in my office and me.
Yeah.
Okay, Elena Finnan, who is acting as my chief deputy right now, is loves to go to court. She does most all my litigation, all my property damage, and several of our personal injury cases. So her hours are often spent at the Rensselaer County Courthouse. And Matt, Matt, he does the traffic matters of the code now. So,
Got the heart. Outside of you.
pardon?
Chair.
Could you walk us through which one is which, on the 101s?
Dan Vincelette is 27,680. Matt Foley is 34,322. Elena Finnan is 38,560.
And did I hear you say, did you reference a full-time?
We've had a full-time deputy corporation counsel in the budget. That's in there again, 2024, that's the $85,000. With the deferred hiring date of February 1st.
Are there any other questions?
Chair,
Councilor Gully.
we had put an RFP out for this position. Job posting position.
That position, I can say tonight, is posted.
I'm not asking my questions, I'm gonna take that as a positive thing.
Chair.
Councilmember Min.
Where is it posted?
It is available online.
Okay, where?
Well, it's on the city website. I mean, we're working through different availabilities moving forward to posting other places.
Right,
I will again though say, like I talked about a week ago, I understand the frustration with how jobs are posted at the city. I will also though say again, personnel has been operating with mostly 2 employees all year to do the personnel for the city and the civil service, for the city of Troy, Troy Housing Authority, Troy Public Library, and the Troy School District. So they do deserve some level of break. This is this is decades of not posting. We met on Wednesday with regards to superintendent of public utilities. We met on Wednesday to look at getting the job posted at special, specific to there. If we want to pursue other options for that as well, we can look into it. I do want to, give some. I think there does need to be consideration for 2023, and I understand the frustration about job postings. Personnel has been operating, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 months, with 2 employees.
Check.
We have a report coming.
No,
I was just gonna say, I mean, we haven't fully transitioned to the internet age in our systems and procedures throughout the city. And it's gonna still take time to do all. We're just not all personnel are trained up in it or understand it or know how to do it. I think that is changing and will change.
Check.
Councilmember Gully.
I know we talk about personnel, but isn't there anyone else that has that ability that works within the administration and maybe we can say, hey, this is great that this person maybe could do this part where we send those postings to them, let them post them out onto the headhunter side to the, and I know it's tough. We're down on all departments. We need to really look at that. Hoping that, we do take a serious look at each department. But Mike, I'm looking for the slipper or something.
So to that point, and I'm not gonna, this is nothing against.
I want to go a lot.
This is nothing against, what I want to say is that this fair and correct. This is a general statement. The department heads have their job specifications. I have heard of in 8 years, and I'll use from when I became deputy comptroller until now, 2 times that a department head has ever gone to personnel and asked to have it posted on a specific place. The first, and I'm not looking to pat myself on the back, the first time was last year when I resigned. So for 6 years, 7 years, not a single department head has gone to personnel to say, this trade magazine would be good to post our jobs. The department heads don't do it. So I'm just being defensive because it was brought up the other night about personnel posting jobs, and now we're talking about it again tonight. Personnel can post it. I would also argue that department heads, if they want their jobs posted in a specific place, need to vocalize that to the personnel department. It is not Heather Muller's job to know the trade organizations for a given department. I would argue that's the responsibility of the department. And again, that's nothing against Rick with this, it's just a matter of where we're talking here. But they don't do it.
Right, on the floor, right there.
You have the floor.
So Andy, I understand how you feel. I really do. But the reality is the managers don't know how to get those websites. And I'll tell you right now, half the management, maybe 3/4 of management, of the city doesn't even know those websites exist. There has to be a process. There has to be a person that handles the request for the management to get it out to them. Somebody who is talented that knows the different sites. And you don't have to have like a specific plumbing site or public works site or attorney site. There's masterful headhunter sites out there that can be utilized for small fees to put our applications up, which gives us broader expansion. I wouldn't expect any of the managers in the departments to know these sites, but I would expect them to go to you and say, hey, I need to get this out. And we should have somebody that has the background. And I realize you're low on it. Maybe that's another piece of the puzzle that we look at here, but we have to do something better than what we're doing. Because right now, we're not doing it.
We're
The
looking,
jobs aren't getting filled. We're not even getting calls for jobs.
we're actively looking
Yeah.
at revamping.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I would love to help you with that. And I'm not technically talented.
Chair.
Councilmember Saranja.
Andy, so I remember when I worked in that position and, I had a distribution list. So it was automatic, like when I would, post positions and when I would post exam announcements, I had an email distribution list. And I remember, one of them was, with Siena College, the other one was with Hudson Valley. I believe the other one was like with Sage College, and it wasn't, because, and Indeed wasn't really being utilized at all when I was here, so, but, it was, they were in my email distribution list, so when I sent them out, they were automatically sent to them, so they can post them at these different colleges. Can you please
Yes.
look into that
And
to
we-
see that that's still happening?
So that was actually a topic conversation on Wednesday as well. That's something that we're verifying was done. It was being done up until this year, and then part of it, the verifying comes from, and it's just the reality of the turnover in there. The
Yeah,
employee on leave is absolutely vital to that office. So then the patchwork that together.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of it this year.
oh, I get it. I mean, it was just,
No,
but
it was,
I get the exam announcements through email, so it should be like, the way I had it set up was, if you would get the exam announcements, so would Hudson Valley and so would Sage or, Siena College, they would automatically get them also. And, it's like a one-shot deal.
so I could say it was definitely being done for last year. It's getting things cleaned up with 2 people in there. And then we'll be back to 3 in the next few weeks, I would say, which will help us. Then we're looking to fill the vacancy now to get them fully staffed.
All right, thank you.
Council President.
Yep, I agree, with Andy. You can't solely put in the back as personnel director. But I will use just one word, less is more, communication. But I agree, thank you.
Councilmember Condos.
For the deputy corporation counsel, is there any reason, I understand that. Why is the salary not listed? I know it says commensurate with education and experience, but it's not listed on the posting.
On the job posting,
Yes, on the-
I have to check into why that's not there.
I do think that we have to, by law, to post that.
Chair.
Councilmember Saranja.
That law passed a few weeks ago. So, yeah,
You have to advertise with it.
you have to advertise.
Did the government sign it?
I
I heard of it.
I believe so.
Is that the law with the provisional stuff?
That's separate,
Uh,
that's separate, that, yeah, that all got passed through, which is a good thing. That's a good thing with the provisional status being utilized as, you know, for the probationary period. But, yeah, this is a separate law and, I'm almost certain it did get passed, I mean, because I understand like with the big positions, because I was doing it too over at City Wrestler, you know, depending on education experience, but now we have to change it and actually put what the at least the starting salary is.
You have to put range or.
You can put a range, but, let me rephrase that. I believe we can put a range, but we have to put at least the starting salary. Yeah, yeah, okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Chair.
Councilman President?
Council member Gully didn't understand what I meant, so I'm talking interagency communication. I agree with Andy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize, I lost this conversation. I next with that.
We're all clear now.
It's a guy.
We've communicated effectively, internally. Okay, did you have anything more we wanted to add on the Corporation Council's budget? No, this is your chance. This is your chance, Rick.
It is,
Yeah,
Well, judgment and claims is next, but I didn't, before we move to that, I just want to make sure we covered everything here. I guess so. Okay, then, judgment and claims,
page 80.
80.
So we budgeted $100,000 for judgments and claims. The tricky part with judgments and claims is there's accounting rules that come with these that Corporation Council is required to write a letter of any and all outstanding cases that exist as of the time of the audit issuance. And that letter is then reviewed by Bonadio. If you have a case that's likely to be settled or be awarded against a judgment against the city, must report that expense in the year the incident occurred. Or if the incident was in a prior year in that year's audit. So the likelihood of a significant claim being recognized in a fiscal year would more than likely occur post year end. Which is why, if you look at right now, the judgments and claims account is at $2,339. That's normal for this time of year. That's what we paid out. That's what we paid out year to date. You see, last year's expense was $307,000 because we were recording back various cases, and I don't recall which cases we accrued at the end of 2022. At this moment, we had to record potential settlements and or cases against the city as part of the 2022 financial statement, which is why we budgeted $100,000 next year. It's always a year-end activity.
So do I assume you're being optimistic in terms?
It's a very reactive account. To
100,000 is essentially a good faith placeholder, but we will not know, because of the accounting rules, we won't know what the actual expenses are until the claim with an incident date in 24 is settled or resolved one way or the other.
you would be recording. If you go off of this year's audit calendar, where I believe, if I remember right, it was approved either July or August. If you were to overlap that to the 2024 budget, Your judgments and claims accounts not finalized until July of 2025. So it's really held open for however long it takes to get your audit done is how long it takes to close out your judgments and claims. For example, the Leonard Hospital, when the Leonard Hospital lawsuits were settled and approved by the city council, if I remember right, those tended to be towards August and September, and that's back when we didn't finish the audit until September 30th. All of those two claims were recognized as part of the audit. They were not recognized in the year that they were paid. So that's that. So I mean, in that year, it's held open for 19 months. That's the accounting rules.
I have a claim on the finance agenda. So Council President is about to go on late. It involves an incident in 2019. Okay, so
That'll be a this year expense. It's not material.
I hear you say.
It's that's different because it's not material. We're talking about material, 10,000, I mean, 10,000 may be a lot. That's not material. Material is 150,000 to 200,000. Yes.
we've been using 75 or more.
Sure.
Council President,
Yeah, in break, I called, the fire department folks regarding that. They have forgotten all about it, so 2019, it's a while, 4 years, and I know it's not your fault.
No, it is my.
Yeah, no, it's not.
No, the
Oh,
accident
you
wasn't my
fought it,
fault.
you
The
fought it.
litigation was my fault.
Right.
Yes.
Now, how,
We litigate aggressively and I'm very stingy.
I know. We'll get to that. I was curious what they were asking.
any other questions on judgment and claims? Before we adjourn, I want to let the record show that we're joined by Councilmember Figueroa. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I think that I went to Councilmember Soriento and the second to Councilmember Gulli. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
All right. We're now going to open up our finance meeting for the capital plan. Okay, if we could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, We'll do a quick roll call for the capital plan finance. Councilmember Go. Councilmember Figurman. Councilmember Steve. Present. Councilmember Mann. Here. Councilmember Conley was present. Councilmember Sorian. Here. Council President Mantello, I'm here. We have 7 present, 0 absent, and we will wait on people. Hi, Chris. What did Councilmember Gully ask?
That's our conversation.
That's right, that's right. You're surrounded by angels. Okay? You're an angel.
Well, don't flutter your wings around, sit back down. Don't let it.
We're an angel that's all my-
It's all good, it's gonna be good at the end, I know that. No sense in talking about it.
We can turn to the page while we're waiting. We're ending and then page 260.
Okay.
Yeah. Last. We're at a stalemate here. Neither do. You filled it out. Nancy, I'll let you kind of walk through it and then we can ask questions.
So it's pretty. It looks a lot like last year's, we tried to roll a lot forward. Economic development's a little bit different. But generally speaking, you'll see a continuation of last year. I think the big piece of this is the same philosophy that we employed in last year, the 2023's budget, where we've shown the capital plan. The only items directly funded in the budget are the unmarked and marked police cars. Those are the budget appropriations because issuing debt for those is not very logical. It has a 3-year useful life. With the exception of the police vehicles, it's reflected in here, but there is no financing source for the purchase proposed in the budget. That would be resolved heading into next year and into the new year.
I see a major 25 mil for 1 monument. Want to talk about that?
Can I ask a question about the police car first?
Sure.
Or you just not change subjects? I would get lost down. At one time, when Monica was asking the deputy mayor, you guys were looking into possible leases. How did that ever, I mean, we never heard anything from it, but how did that turn out?
So we were looking more at leasing. Not police cars. That was, if I recall, more in the DPW fleet.
Like you said, code, like.
And things like, that's what we were looking at. It didn't make much, the numbers didn't really work. The tricky part you get when you, especially at that time, and that would still hold true today. But the interest rate you pay back on those leases is a lot more than what the city would get. Now, there's something to be said for turning your fleet over timely. There's certainly no denying that.
Yeah.
But it was something that had some legs, but never really progressed, I would say.
I get it. And I know it's a big step and there is a lot of involved with lease, a lot of things that happen with it, mileage involved. Where you run around with cars. And I agree with the other question. We shouldn't be letting our vehicles get to the point where they're just junk. We're selling them for junk. If we get 3-4 good years and they're not beat up too bad by the time we get 3-4 years in, we should look at the value of that vehicle, turn it over to get something, we keep our fleet on top of itself instead of, having vehicles up front and saying, oh, it was broke down, we can't get, plenty of times especially in sanitation, when I call, it's all about broken equipment, broken trucks. So I'm glad you said that. I was hoping that maybe there was police cars, all fancy lights, big motors. I didn't know if they would lease something like that, but I wanted to ask, I know that it was a thought back 4 years ago.
One of the, I mean, this is in the weeds a bit, but this was one of the issues that really came from it is Sean Hooley had really pushed hard developing this type of program.
Yeah.
The very difficult part with creating that revolving turnover of vehicles, where in theory you're auctioning them off to use it to buy a new vehicle. If you bond for the first vehicle, and then you say you use it for 5 years, you declare it surplus and you sell it. Under New York State finance law, you're required to take those proceeds and only use it for that vehicle. So you're not creating that revolving that you need to do. It has to be done, the most efficient way to build it is through budgetary appropriations. That's how you would be able to build it for the purpose that you're trying to get it there for, to build that up. Because then you're putting in annual appropriations, and then you're able to also supplement it through auctioned off vehicles with no restrictions on finance law behind it. Now, there's the argument to be made that you can move it around, like you could shift it, but that doesn't work. It doesn't work to the degree I think that goal would be there. So it's almost like you got to pick a type of vehicle.
Yeah.
Is it the city hall, what we call pool vehicles that everyone can use. Do you start there? Do you start with pickup trucks for OGS? You almost have to pick a category of vehicle. It's like we've done with police vehicles. We said, no more bonding, get it in the budget, and now we've successfully gotten it into the budget. And we did that, I think, 3 years ago. 2025 will be the first year of a budget without a payback on debt for police vehicles. So it does take that long to get out of this cycle. The next step is to get something like pickup trucks into the budget, where you're creating that revolving turnover of pickup trucks. You can't do it at one shot. You have to build it to get right, step at a time.
I agree. Thank you, Andy.
So, Chris, taking a step back, if you could walk us through the DPW half mil facility upgrades, didn't we already authorize funding for that?
Yeah, DPW currently has $500,000 that you've already authorized for facility upgrades.
This is not in addition.
This is an addition, and there's potential roof work, so we wanted to include this as a placeholder. So if that, not on the new building, correct, on the old building. So this will give us the flexibility to hopefully be able to do that roof work if it's necessary.
Okay, and then in the police department, the 250.
I'll defer that question for my friends on
Public safety,
Wednesday night.
okay.
They have a, no, they have a plan.
They have a plan, okay? If we could jump to fire. I guess we can talk about it in public safety. I would like an update on our fire station. So if you could make sure, that the chief is prepared for this. And then I saw facility upgrade for 2025, 7.5 mil.
That's Lansing Firehouse. Yeah. That 7.5 is the placeholder for the new firehouse.
Right. So we'll hold that for the PS, okay? If the council says okay with that. And then one other thing, Andy, I know Eric, when he spoke, when we authorized the funding, because, I know it takes forever to get that aerial. Was it the aerial ladder or the pumper? It was the pumper, wasn't it? We authorized, and he said we should authorize two. He did look at this and he said we're paying a ton more by not authorized. Remember, he had that proposal, yeah.
My recollection is we looked at the numbers and purchasing two at the same time did not result in a savings. That's my recollection.
All right, and I'll go back to my notes, they're not here, but I do recall him saying, if by the time they come in, it would have made sense authorizing two, and it would have saved money, so I'll go back to my notes on that one. And then the facility improvements at Bird Park. We can talk about parks, but I'm thinking, is it for their equipment that,
So that's actually for the park club.
oh,
So
okay.
there are significant improvements that need to be completed. That's really gonna be up for the next mayor and administration to figure out what they want to do. I think that could be that the city steps in and does the work in advance of putting it out to bid. Because there are some structural items that need to be addressed.
Major.
So that $1 million is for the park club improvements,
Is
and
that,
to allow the flexibility
and
on
it's
that.
only the restaurant, because I did take a tour with Greg and we have purchased some really, really great equipment for that golf course. And he is super concerned about where the equipment's being stored. It's a lovely historic building. I forget the name of it, the annex maybe. And the roof is leaking, and we need to ensure that we protect our assets.
That's the 2025 number.
That's the 2.1. Do you think we can, honestly, the way it looks to me with that roof, I'm super fearful that we're going to be in some deep doo-doo.
We can talk, like we talked about.
Yeah, I think you should, or maybe bring an engineer in to take a look at it, because I'm not an engineer, obviously, but it was leaking in a number of places. Greg is putting Band-Aids on the building, and we have like millions of dollars of equipment now in there, and it's fairly new.
I've been in it as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building, but it needs some work, so.
Chair,
Councilmember Kelly.
I'm very familiar with this because I've had numerous conversations over many months.
Bigger.
That building, the annex, is a historical building and has a slate roof on it, which is also part of his historical piece of it. I do believe that if we research hard enough, we might be able to find some type of funding to get the roof done early. But for now, we can get a high quality industrial partner floor to protect our equipment. And I'll tell you why. We invested so much into taking our municipal golf course and raising its quality up to where we have country club people coming to play at Fair Park. We have a restaurant that's there and they do a fine job here, great food, they work hard. But if you've ever been in that kitchen, one, it's antiquated with its equipment. Two, it is not laid out for any type of success for the volume that course is growing. And it's certainly not laid out for success with the hockey enthusiasts that come in also. We overburden that restaurant and they can't get food out in time. It takes them a long time to fill the orders because they don't have a flowing kitchen. That puts a bad reputation on the restaurant, which puts a little blemish on the whole project of our biggest, gonna be our biggest revenue generator beside water. I do feel that this is a smart move. And I'm glad you're kind of waiting because it really hasn't been felt out, but my thoughts are, we don't need to buy equipment. We have the next person, because restaurateurs have a line of food that they serve. That food requires certain pieces of equipment to make that food come out properly. We're better off to set it up for success by just putting in the wall, the electric, the gas, the hood, and letting the person who comes in bring in the equipment that they use to make their food, so that it can be top of their game, so that we can show that we have a top-notch restaurant attached to our very classy golf course now, because we're gonna make this a revenue generator. And I wouldn't be surprised if we could come close to $1 million this year, which we probably didn't think for a couple years, but I think that this year, I mean, we could be close. I don't know what the numbers are, but we can be close. And I think that we have to respect the millions of dollars that we put into the course by putting the money in probably the park club to make it a package. Because when you do that, you'll see even a lot more people come there for parties, weddings, events, fundraisers, more than we have now. And I would also suggest that we could also look at adding onto that deck beside the building, up the building, because that deck does not hold enough people. When there's 140 golfers and there's people in there with a private party, there's nowhere to go. So we're gonna make it successful for the next people because we want them to be a success. And if we tie the right pieces into the contract that we do with them, we'll certainly have a really well-rounded, successful, profitable business in the city of Troy. So I just want to say that I'm excited to see that.
And, you know, just to add, it's really debatable if the restaurant's even handicap accessible. I mean, I have, I know it's not, I was being kind. I have a tough time to get my son in, so, I mean, we go to the deck, it's easier to get to the deck side.
Those are exactly the kind of improvements I agree with you.
And seniors, that's just, you know, the thing. Okay, so full disclosure, I did ask Eric, Wisher what he said. He said if they bought 2 pumpers last year, we would have saved money. Last year, $850, okay. This year, $1 million plus multiple vehicle discount. He said, can we tag on to last year's bid for the same price this year? I know.
I would defer to the chief.
We can talk about that, yeah, okay? I'll put it in my notes. Okay, Chair. All right. Okay, Any other questions regarding, the golf course, fire department, rec department? Andy, outside of the police, we are not funding any other vehicles in the budget. Okay. All right. Just wanting to verify the. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, we're going to the big economic development. I wish Dylan had stayed around. So are you guys prepared to talk about the 6.2 for the Riverwalk Trail first?
Yeah, well, I'll just say, for each one of these numbers, we are accounting for 25 million from Monument Square. I'll just say it was also last year's budget, so we just moved that forward.
Okay,
to
so
2024.
no decision
No,
to propose bonding, nothing like
No,
that.
and for each one of these numbers, it's the estimated cost for to complete the project. In many cases, they are offset by grants and other awards. So for example, the Riverwalk Trail there's DRI funding for that. You know, Congress Street and Ferry Street, there is DOT and other funding for that.
Oh, cool.
So
Dylan,
these kind of things. Little Italy, we've got the sand grant.
yep,
So,
Okay,
still
so
working
you-
through the agreement, but we have to appropriate or, give you the full number that the project's gonna cost.
okay.
So that's why the numbers appear.
And the Monument Square, the 25, that's separate from the 22, the 19 millimetry,
Uh,
correct?
Potentially, some of that state grant could offset the 25 that
Okay,
you see here.
Okay.
So it depends on where the final numbers fall. And I'm gonna pass the microphone over to Andy so he can tell me if I said anything correct.
Yeah, so as Deputy Mayor mentioned, it's all in prior to grants. Now, of the 38 million that's there, but if you start going, Riverwalk Trail, 6.2 million has DRI money tied to it. It also has a previously approved $3 million bond resolution that we did in 2021. I believe that was passed in 21. Congress and Ferry 5.8 million, that includes the full tip. At least 80% reimbursable. We've already bonded, I believe, like it's either 452 or 952 for that project.
can we stay on that quick? Have we officially been approved for that tip? That's what I was asking today.
Yeah, I saw that email.
Yeah.
Wanted to speak into the microphone. and just-
Yep. Thanks for hanging around, Dylan.
No, I've got a resolution here, don't worry about it. It just came to visit. Yes,
And
so,
it's just for the council tip, if you could give us a 30-second and
sure, it's a transportation improvement plan. It's run through DOT. And our NPO, which is basically our regional transportation office, which is CRTC. So the whole acronym, sorry. Essentially what we started off with was the Route 2 plan, which would be the Congress and Ferry corridor, doing a road diet there, doing a whole bunch of stuff. Eventually that, as the Taylor Apartment started to come online and we knew we had to do the bridge, then we put in additional money for the bridge. We worked with CDTA as well. So that went in as an amendment, which is amendment to get more money essentially. Then those got combined along with now the tunnel. It's the new thing that we have to deal with as well. So what we were waiting on was basically the total amendment be amended. Essentially, it's accepted by the MPO and then put together as one big funding package, which it has been. So at this point right now, we're gonna be putting out, we already have Craig Manning on board. They were the selected vendor out of the RFP. We're now getting some initial engineering pieces done, and we're gonna be going to the public hopefully in the next month or so to start that process.
okay, well, okay. So, Chair, yep, council member man,
And I know we were able to secure space and stage for November to have that community input meeting. And get the updates on where the current design is and the project is. Because the last community engagement was in 21 during COVID, so. So that will be an opportunity for all the different user groups to come together.
Yes, and I had coffee with James Rath not that long ago from Capital Streets, used to be with us as well. The question came up about whether or not we're going to be doing any public outreach, which is required. So
Yeah.
of course, we're doing that. And second of all, it was his application that went in. And we're adhering to his application because we have to. But once it goes into DOT, it has to be followed. Whatever's in the application is what gets funded. You can't deviate from that. So, yeah, we're doing that, and it's gonna be very engineering heavy, and we're ready for that. But it's gonna be about the bridge, the tunnel, and Route 2. So we're happy to do it. I just gotta make sure that that fits, because that date was set before us. I gotta make sure that that date actually fits with the contract. Yeah.
So I do think, because this has been, I don't want to say a struggle, but something that we've discussed, I think, I know internally, I think with the council over the years, is this section in particular with the capital plan is always very difficult. In the best way to show it, because it's not always reflective of when your construction is going to begin. This is more of a, like, your financing calendar plus pertaining to legislation. It is unlikely that there's gonna be all this work done next year. I do, for Congress and Ferry and Monument Square, we would still need to bring seeker before the council, and that's not on the horizon. It's not happening this year. So it's more, think of the economic development section as potential bond resolutions for economic development projects, not so much when construction would actually occur. Because you can't bid, you can't award a construction contract unless if you have your appropriation. And your appropriations derive directly from your bond resolution, so.
Right.
So, I mean, Little Italy is different than that, because Little Italy is a grant, and we're cash flowing that as opposed to putting that on debt. So that's separate from the other ones, but I just want to note that it's not, the risk of being
No.
bad news. It's just, there's a differentiation in that section as opposed to some degree the vehicles and the facility.
And I apologize, what were we approved for the total tip of 5.8 or no?
Now, when we brought the bond resolution, I think it was in 21. No, 22. We did a bond resolution for Congress Ferry for the decades old original tip for the project. We have not updated the bond resolution.
Do we know how much we received? I know, Dylan.
That I don't know.
All right, we'll get that number and,
I feel like it might be 4.9. And
okay,
I know that because there was some federal stimulus funding that flowed through the state,
I
which
recall.
went to
Yeah.
the bridge. In addition, there was the DRI funding.
Okay, I do recall that.
4.9.
4.9 would make sense to my recollection of a $952,000 bond resolution.
Okay, yep, that makes sense. And then real quick, Dylan can, I'll go offline and talk to him, but the wayfinding, oh, there he is. I don't even know if you want to talk about the wayfinding, like.
Oh, I'll
I
get back at
feel
it.
like we've been talking about this forever. We have state money, I think 100 and something K, I mean.
Let me address that real quick. So we had 100 and something, I think, total, like $190,000 set aside for the wayfinding. When we put out our bid, the lowest bid came in at like $699. So like, it was not going to cover it. I inherited the project. It wasn't set up to be as comprehensive as we were hoping, I think, but also we had never been through this process before, so I don't think it was ever set up to be, the experience wasn't there. We didn't know what we were getting into in terms of price. That said, also costs have gone up significantly. They went up as we bid it. So we were probably somewhere around $399 originally. That's what our anticipation was. We could figure out how to plug that gap. We do have money though from the DRI that's supposed to go towards riverfront specifically.
Mhm.
But that's not going to necessarily take care of the bid that we already put out, which deals with more than just.
All right.
It's bigger than that.
Yeah. Can we maybe out of the 190, take like 5K and put a sign coming in City Hall, like off of one of the bridges. Nobody knows where City Hall is. People from outside, we do. But honestly, when people come out,
Yeah,
and I should say from elsewhere, it's
the problem is there's very specific design guidelines, and I'd love to actually get that implemented so that we don't end up with what we have now, just like 25 different signs everywhere.
it's terrible, terrible.
So I don't.
The gateway, oh my gosh, yeah, I honestly didn't want to open the can of worms, but
Pandora's box, I know.
I
Okay.
did. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and is 4.9 the number? Is that definitive
We'll
or?
verify it.
Okay, oh, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here.
One more you can.
I know.
If you have one more question, Dylan.
Try to give you the heads up though.
If my kids let it in on fire, it's their fault.
For the, and this might be, I don't know if it's a question for Dylan or Andy, for the redevelopment of Lyman Square, how did you guys get the 25 million, like? estimated?
That was a placeholder because we knew it would be a certain amount at that point. But again, I think Andy was speaking to it earlier, the difficulty in trying to plan for construction when you're trying to bond something ahead of time. It's an imperfect time.
Do you feel like that's enough? I know we got 19 from the state, right?
Yeah, I think it remains to be seen exactly, but I personally, I feel confident, but I wouldn't take that as.
Thank you again, Dylan.
I'm here.
Anyone else? Any? All right. Thank you, Dylan. Any other questions or anything we're missing with go to garbage? Do you guys want to? Thank you.
So if I speak for the garbage trucks, and the pickup trucks that are in 2024, I'll let Tom speak to that.
In yeah, yep, that's fair. Yep. Okay. Public utilities. We actually should have went over this last night. I know, thinking that.
So, public utilities, the transmission main, that's more than, like, we talked about that briefly the other night, that's at this point, probably gonna be, well, it's not gonna be 2024. The hope as of right now is to bid the construction for phase 2 in the fourth quarter of 2024. That financing is closed on. But you don't pay interest until you draw it down, so it's sitting there waiting for city to be ready to go. Project. That's an EFC project, so they decided when we were going to close. You are beholden to them. Dam, the Class C dams, that's, I don't know which dam that would be. That's, a lot of this stuff was rolled over from last year's 2023's capital plan. The $19.5 million is representative of the water plant upgrades and then the security upgrades that were recently funded. And the vehicles.
Sure.
Councilmember Kelly.
Can we talk more about facility upgrades and improvements? Was this buying that sort of BMW, thermal water, Masonic? Is part of this buying that building and reforming it to be our storage, or? Because I thought we did bonding.
So we did. So the principal portion of that is the $18.5 million bond for the water plant itself, for the permanent chemical upgrades, and then also improvements to that structure. At that same meeting, there was a $1.5 million bond resolution approved along with a $500,000 appropriation from fund balance for the security upgrades. The $500,000 was for the purchase of the Masonic company, and then to seed some of the other work to get them going. And then the $1.5 million is what you're referring to, is the security, is the new fencing, the cameras, and that of that nature. But the bulk of that is the pending grant application for the water plant upgrades themselves.
I know that councilperson Soriento back while ago sent an email requesting some information on a electrical safety report that was done back in February or March by an employee who's not with us any longer. And, I had a conversation with the person and said, did you ever look at that the council? And why would we do that? That's within the administration. And I did reach out and send an email. I think you sent an email, like,
Yeah.
asking questions, because I know all those guys and have a lot of friends. And he said that we should really look at that. He said, because there was some serious safety issues around the higher voltage electrical pieces. And I had requested that, and nobody seems to know where that went. Is that something that's supposed to be like some sort of yearly process to look at our equipment and find out if there's any safety or any necessary repairs that need to be done?
This is the first I've heard
I
of
don't think it
that.
got to you, it's Chris Whalen, but I believe just you, Chris.
Yeah,
And I got the two of you that didn't go past it. I'm trying to figure out why.
yeah, Chris, so I knew it wasn't in the engineering office, that's originally why. I think council members sort of doing pass it on to me, because we weren't sure if it was maybe in the engineering office, but it would have been under, see, Chris Wheeland obviously didn't get back to you, that's what I'm hearing.
I'll have to check my email. I don't think he,
Okay.
I followed that one. I was just doing a search.
We can dig it.
I was wondering if we could pick that up, maybe, because I don't know what's in there. I do not know, and I'm not gonna claim to know or take bad, good, or cross, I mean, the word that I was given, because when she had addressed that concern, I had reached out to find out what areas concern it would be. Those are things that were spoken of, so I'd like to make sure that as process and as rehabilitation of the building, that we look at these concerns. So we're, from apart, we need to be able to park. So and I don't know how bad or good it is, I just know that it's there and nobody knows where it is.
Yes, Councilmember Mims.
Yeah, I actually also got, that was also brought to my attention. That there were some unsafe electrical conditions. At the water plant, and water and electricity are not great. I did want to circle back to the Class C dams, because, over the summer, we had a resident who was almost sucked through the Mount Ida Dam, which is sort of removed, but not actually removed, and is now clogged with tree branches. And so it is exactly as dangerous as it was before. And I would like to point out that should we have a hurricane level rainstorm plus the worst case scenario, that the amount of silt behind that dam will, I believe, one of the previous city engineers said, would basically take out all of the houses along the canal, and a good chunk of Hill Street. It is a really unsafe condition, and this has been on the city's radar for 30 years, but I mean, in the public discourse for 6 or 7 years now, and basically we've left it in the worst. We opened the dam, but now it's clogged again, so it's sort of the worst of two worlds. And so I was wondering, one, who's taking the lead on that, Monica was previously, and two, where's the progress? And what's the plan?
Chris Wheeland was leading that project.
Yeah.
I'll have to see where it stands currently.
Right. Right, because we will be getting into, spring will be here really soon, and that's when sort of the higher risk of. I think the estimate for property damage, if that dam failed in a sort of Hurricane Sandy situation, was something about $2 to $3 billion. So plus, and a fire station and a new park that we're doing.
Councilmember Conley Wilson, thank you.
Can I make the suggestion that we have like an engineer, someone take a look at what to do with those dams, because if we're going to be decommissioning them, like, we want to do those safely. We're going to be maintaining them, we want to make sure that we're doing it safely. I think it's really important that we have someone who knows, like, is licensed and has a background. for that. We don't want to really be.
Yeah, let me go back and,
Have an engineer.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Snowball or something.
I have to go back and look at the
What's the name?
files I have, so.
I thought it was.
They were doing,
Chris had shared his own info.
they were involved, I still remember they were involved.
Were they on the other side trying to?
They might have
Keep
been.
it up
I just
there.
remember that name coming up only when this was, I want to say new, but.
Yeah.
When it was being addressed several years ago at council meetings. I can check, I could swear that we have purchase orders with CDM Smith for a variety of things with the dams with that. Deputy Mayor mentioned we had the full records that was under the purview.
Free. And there are, you know, pros and cons, both sides, there are some, flood mitigation, it can help with flood mitigation if we decommission them, keep them up. It can make flooding worse, there's a lot of different information there. I was curious about for the water treatment plant upgrades. It looks like last year we were gonna do some of these, it looks like some of these are kind of at the same spot. Or so we were pushed back a year, just curious, kind of what was the thinking behind that?
Was applying for grants, I think. Not a thing, water's in a bit of a, I want to say precarious spot, but there's gotta be. Weight given to, historically, we've used fund balance. To do a lot of the water capital plan items, leaving open debt for, because we had always known that. The transmission main project was on the horizon, and even with the contributions from the wholesale communities, it's still a significant burden onto the water fund. So we were trying to use the water fund to supplement $1 million, $2 million appropriations for improvements. I think a lot of that money now is being relooked at for lead replacement. That's a byproduct of this constitutional issue where when we started to talk about the lead project, we had talked about just, there was a significant benefit to being able to put that on bond resolution as a whole. But out of the gate, it helps for grant applications. It had always been thought it would be run through EFC that has lower interest rates than the market. With the problem that we have with the Constitution, we pivoted more into a fund balance approach. As I mentioned the other night, you'll see another $500,000 appropriation for lead. The result of that has been reassessing future upgrades that are needed. You don't want to drain that fund balance. There's a spot that it's in the eye of the beholder. You want that thing somewhere between $5-6 million. It'll be in the high 6 million once we bring this ordinance forward. Luckily, we had rebuilt the fund balance so that we were able to appropriate for lead and then other things that we've done throughout the last several years.
Andy, do these need to be done in order that they've suggested, because some of these are kind of a bit less expensive, so maybe ramping up?
No, I've always personally viewed the capital plan to be a living document. It's from year to year, but even within the year, you can shift we've always kind of shifted within everything to align with as things become needed. You're not beholden to it. You become beholden to it to some degree when you do bond resolutions, then obviously locking yourself in, buying it. But even then, there's some flexibility within the bond resolution itself.
Sure, I just wonder, because I know we approved there's a research being done for the fluoride system. So I think once that's done, like the preliminary research, then it makes sense to kind of start with that, so we don't have to drop the project and bring it back. And then I don't know about the other, the line conveyor replacement or the filter media.
I think too, to the water plant upgrades themselves. You hate to look at it this way, but if the city does not get that grant. That we had said that night, this was, I think that some degree, there certainly needs to be upgrades up there. But it was, that concept was contingent on being awarded the grant for EFC. And if the city, for whatever reason, did not get the grant, then the upgrades at the plant themselves would have to be reevaluated for what they're needed to be. That bond resolution was being done. I mean, it is for water plant upgrades, but it was for that specific project, not to use for that grant. So that's the two, what I mean about it being living.
Yeah.
That this before you is just based on that application.
Andy, the trucks, are they something new?
It's just a second typo that's in there.
It's okay, honestly, we have a 300-page document and only 2 typos, not bad.
Better than prior years.
It's very good. You know what I'm going to suggest, so maybe council members or you could have a separate DPU meeting just to really get a go. I mean, Andy, would Andrew, and Dave be okay to talk about this, or, you know, especially the facility upgrades, things like that? Or should we hold on? I mean, are they prepared, you know, 'cause if not, we can wait.
Let me have a conversation with them first,
Okay.
just because
Yeah.
with the transition and everything happening right now, they've got a lot on their plate and.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
this is super important at the same time, and they're now caught up to speed, et cetera, just when. Okay, very good. Alright. We'll hold on, Councilman. Okay. Oh, I'm good. I sent an emailer to you regarding, Chris's. We would, at least the 3 of us, like to know the arrangements, just how many hours a week and what he's being paid. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll talk to the mayor.
Yep. Okay. Andy, anything else?
I don't think so.
Now, the water system improvements, we may have to go back and ask Andrew. We have already appropriated 500. So didn't we, for the fluoride and chemicals, is that what this is, or? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I thought that was for a study, the fluoride,
Like the grant,
yeah.
that was specific to a study and. I think we're gonna be closing that grant out soon. It was a quick grant.
Okay. So also, I like just an update on what the $500,000 for the distribution replacement purpose. Or is that the lead? Did they?
I actually think that might be like,
But I'm thinking that's the lead. That's
I think
the
it might be
$500,000
lead,
I just talked about. Can we change the
Yes.
title? If it is the lead. I'm thinking it is.
I'm positive that it is.
Okay.
Okay,
That
for last
makes
year, it says 1.5 million, so.
Mhm. All right, that makes sense. Thank you. Now that makes total. All right. Any other questions, regarding capital plan? Chris and Andy, thank you very, very much. All right, I will take a motion to adjourn from the capital plan finance. We have a motion, Councilmember Gully, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Soriento, discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? If we're okay, I'd like to go right into the finance, someone needs a break. All right, let's do it. We are. We should stand for finance, and Ann, you might as well hang out. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, Roll call, Councilmember Go.
Still here.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Here.
Councilmember Steele. Councilmember Van. Present. Councilmember Conley Wilson. Present. Councilmember Soriano. Here. Council President Mantello is here. We have 7 present, 0 absent. We will go right into the presentation of the agenda. Anything passed tonight, we'll go to the regular meeting, public forum. We'll open it up to the thousands of folks that are here. If anyone would like to speak on any item on the agenda.
Please come up one at a time.
Okay, we're going to close the public forum. Maria, I'm just going to ask, all right, I just need to look at. Ordinance 70, ordinance amending the 2023 general fund and miscellaneous special revenue fund budgets to appropriate additional funding from the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee for Police Traffic Services. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? So motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Soriano, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 70 passes 7-0. Ordinance 71, ordinance amending the 2023 miscellaneous special revenue fund budget to appropriate additional funding from the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee for the Child Passenger Safety Program. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? So moved. Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second. Second, Councilmember Mann, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 71 carries 7-0. Ordinance 72, ordinance amending the general fund, garbage fund, water fund budgets. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Gully, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Soriano. I have discussion. I don't have my laptop, so I apologize here. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, and the first one, I noticed, let's see, facilities, we have overtime 7,500. Number 3 would be the payroll accounts. Do you know what that?
So this is my annual transfer of taking all the taking salary savings, now I don't want to say all. Take salary savings from every department in the city, then amending the budget for most of the accounts that are over, and then so we'll appropriate additional money. So number 1 is the reimbursable demolitions, is revenue and the expenditures. Those equal each other. Number 2 is
Okay, if you're gonna do that,
yeah,
hold on.
this started.
Okay, yep, that's cool. So the 666, they were reimbursed. Do we have which property list?
I can get a list.
That would
It's-
be helpful.
It's, and when I say reimbursed, I mean invoice, I do not mean paid.
So it's not cash.
It's not, no, we fund the cash and then if we
Right.
don't pay the invoice, you'll be seeing it probably, hopefully December 14th for a refund. So,
Oh, so okay, time out. So these are only invoices.
correct,
I thought this was cash that we had gotten.
I wish.
Wow.
This is,
If you could give us the list of properties, I think that'd be helpful.
I will,
Okay, did we, could you tell me which account we funded it through?
so we floated as,
I know there's a couple different.
so these reimbursable demolitions are paid for out of the general fund, we keep them separate from the city demolitions funded through the American Rescue Plan.
Mhm.
And then the general fund ends up floating the cash. Hopefully they pay it. If not, we re-levy it, the general fund still have the cash. It goes 100% on the first installment of the property taxes. And we'll see what happens. Well, you see what happens from there. I mean, there's been times it's been paid. There's been times we end up foreclosing on the property. It really,
That was my,
it depends on the year. You just tend to see foreclosed properties that have demolition charges attached.
for someone that does not reimburse us, we give them how many shots at paying the demolition?
So they have at
2
least,
years?
before we foreclose.
Yeah.
3 years.
3. And that includes demo costs.
Correct. So it's all re-levies are 100% on the first installment. And then they have 3 years to pay their tax bill prior to the foreclosing commencement. However, under state law, you have to pay your taxes in reverse chronological order.
Right,
So if you get to July 1st, then you have to pay your second installment before you pay your first installment. So you have 3 years, but you have 6 months to pay the bill without having something else due in front of it.
is this 666 only this year, or does this include prior years?
So this is only 2023 for about the last 6 months. We had already done a budget amendment earlier this year for 200,
I recall.
somewhere between 240 and 270. And then amending it for 666,000 for the demolitions that have occurred mainly this summer.
Okay, Rick's gonna tell me, you know what I would love? Can you give us, because clearly there are properties in that 3-year period, some might be on their 3rd year. For, property, the demos, et cetera, the foreclosures. Do you have a list of properties? You know what I'm asking.
No, I want to,
Okay. So it takes 3 years. Can we get a list, for instance, somebody 3 years ago, we demoed a building. That's in year 3. You know what I'm saying? So a list of the properties who haven't paid back, that we re-levied, who haven't paid back.
So,
Right,
so
correct, for outstanding.
The, so the 3-year rule, we would be going back to 2020 now,
Right,
right? But it's not 3 years from the date of the demo. There was a demo on the property in 2021.
and the 2022 taxes.
Beyond the 22 taxes,
2022.
and in
yeah.
order to, but you might be being foreclosed for 2020. Okay, but you have to pay 22 and 23 in order to pay 2020. So it doesn't, it's
I
not a
know
straight
what
3
you're
year
saying,
thing.
yeah.
That's all.
Now, yeah, I get it. I
We
get it.
may be able to get something. Because I just wouldn't
Yeah, just,
verify it.
okay. And I'd like to know which demos. Yeah. Okay, I get it now, though. It is more complicated than, just go back for a year, yeah, okay.
Chair,
Councilmember Gully.
can it be made simple? Just any re-levy that hasn't been paid so far should come up on the screen. If there was a re-levy put onto the tax that hasn't been paid, whether they pay 23 and they only re-levy on 22. It would still show it's still over. Right?
We can run a report. I mean,
Yeah.
it's simple. It's in the eye of the
And
beholder.
carve out the demos.
Yeah, we can
I
run,
like to use that word a lot.
we can run a specific demolition, unpaid demolition charges that
Perfect,
have not been foreclosed on.
perfect.
Thank you.
Now,
I'm sorry, let me clarify. Re-levy demolition charges that have not been paid or foreclosed.
correct,
Because engineering, they do a very good job. They do the billing for demolition charges, then my office gets it at re-levy.
ooh. Okay, I recall Alpha is a perfect example. How long did that go for? 2 years, didn't it?
We never
But
re-levy.
we never re-levy them.
Oh. Thanks.
But that was,
Sure.
They got insurance,
right, they had insurance, but it took a while to settle the claim.
right,
So
okay,
we were,
and negotiate,
we had a lien on the insurance.
okay, got it,
But when it comes to demolition re-levies, the water re-levies are, if you don't pay it, it's going to the, if you're not paying it, it's going to the council. Demolition re-levies are different in that if there's a claim with insurance proceedings with it, it does not always get re-levied. It gets parsed out for that purpose.
Okay, all right. Good. Good answers. Okay, not good. Okay.
So then number two, and this is number two for
Yes.
general fund, water fund, and garbage fund,
Mhm.
are salary savings in the departments throughout the year.
Yep.
With leaving enough for, we look at it. Make sure there's enough money for the remaining payrolls of the year, and then leaving some excess there in the event the department decides to hire,
Mhm.
so that then they don't push over budget. In that regard.
And then, three, I know this is clothing, et cetera, to a specific, if you don't
And
mind.
so three generally is 100 accounts that needed additional money appropriated to them with the consideration of getting them through the remainder of the year.
Got it. So let's see, overtime facilities, 7,500. I was curious about that one.
I would defer to department heads for their overtime overruns.
So do you lump all the facilities for that?
That's just general fund. That's strictly the employees within a 1620.
So we'll have to get an answer on that. The police, the 23K overtime, or, not overtime, clothing was
So-
something.
What we have seen with the police department is a very significant flip from taking clothing to taking vouchers for uniforms and now taking it as a paycheck.
Okay,
That's what transpired there.
okay. I remember my dad getting the vouchers and we go down Kramer's and he would get his uniforms, et cetera, and,
It has, almost no one takes a voucher.
really?
Yes, it's very,
Oh, my gosh.
it's
that just
completely
shows-
flipped.
That shows how like ancient, that I did not realize that. I had no idea. Is there a reason or have you asked? We
I
have
I
that right back there.
I can get, I don't know if part of it is that we switched how it was done, where it was a gift card to a specific vendor. I don't, it's, but then again, it's those individuals' choice.
Yeah,
They get
whatever
to
works.
pick what they get. It's
Yeah.
either the
Yeah.
gift card or the check.
Good check. Okay,
Chair,
yes, Councilmember Dodd.
when they get this allowance, are they bound to spend it on the uniform stuff, or can they take the money and go to OTB?
It's through, well, it's through payroll and then it's on their own to get their,
But we,
what they want to use that for is their choice, but they still have to buy their
so
wired stuff.
right, we have a standard that they have to keep somebody's lacking pieces because they're taking the money and not buying what they need. Everybody has fully equipped with their uniform, so if somebody's lacking, not one guy wears the same uniform 7 days a week, right?
I would hope not.
I would hope not too.
Okay, the out of grade and number of retirements I take it.
Correct.
And then the big one that I saw, the code enforcement, I take it the 17.5 is due to Harbor Point. Much of it, or,
I would assume so, but again, would defer to,
all right,
I can't speak to the.
Yep.
You would think, but I don't want to say something that's incorrect.
yep, we'll save that for GF. And what I was wondering is potentially if we, Rick, I don't know if you know the answer. Have we gone after any reimbursement for Harbor Point for the consultant time or anything like that?
At present, no. It's, I have a notice of claim from Harbor Point. They are claiming against the city of Troy, saying that we did everything wrong. So I do have to have a 50H hearing on that pretty soon. And depending on where things go, I have to really head it. I haven't really studied it enough yet, but certainly if we get sued, there will be counterclaims.
Okay, I would hope so. big ones. The out of grade paying code enforcement, I take it that's big share.
Right.
Okay. This is overtime. Plans, flopping over to the golf course. I know we budgeted for 145K, but there was an additional 55K, that's 10, what's that?
That was under budgeted for in 2020. Although part of that was we didn't fully encompass the minimum wage, well, not just minimum wage increases, but other wage increases that came about.
Chair,
You would jump in, council member.
I just want to point out that there was an extra almost 40 days of golf where we were used, where last year they weren't used. I don't know if that makes that much of a difference, but I will tell you that now we're getting a lot more capacity, a lot more use than we've ever gotten out of that. When we had to shut down for 2 days after a rainstorm, now we're up and running during the rainstorm and the water's just going away. So I just think that that could be, that is a big.
That's a really big
I
number.
think that's a-
What do we,
I think that probably, that is a, I think that's a good point. Looking at the golf course as a whole, I'm sure we're gonna talk about it Thursday,
Yeah.
but the revenues the revenues for the golf course were. Josh and I can explain how we did it.
yeah,
But I think we're in a new era in a sense with the golf course where it is gonna be open more days. So you have revenue adjustments that certainly have to be considered. There certainly probably are expenditure adjustments that need to be considered, especially in this area where you're more, when the course is open, it's not being closed for rain, your temporary employees will be working more. But the principal reason for this increase is based on wage adjustments that we didn't fully account for in last year's budget. And I do want to note, this is the 55 to get them through to the end of the season. It's not in the whole 55. No.
what do we have right now? Andy?
$181.
So that wasn't so much more employees, it was the wage. And
Correct. My understanding is that there were, we can verify this prior to Thursday. My understanding is it was not more employees, and if it was more employees, it was very few more employees.
okay.
I could answer that, but I.
Yeah, I don't wanna, you can speak much better to this than I can.
Well, I kind of did that. Just. Chair,
Yes, Councilmember Gully and then Councilmember.
What I hope- what I hope is the end result here is where the golf course becomes its own entity in our budget. It's like sanitation. I think we have to look at that focus moving forward once we get. Because we're not really there yet. This is a good year, but it's not really the best year we're gonna have. I think that at some point, when we get through a lot of the heavy that we put in here, that the golf course could sustain itself and have its own. Its own budget. I mean, I'm no accountant. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, I fully agree that the golf course should be in its own fund. The city is a very, very long way from making that happen. You would have to significantly change the fee, the fee structure up there has to be significantly changed to put it in its own fund. It cannot, we've discussed this recently, you cannot put an operation into its own fund if it's not self-sufficient. Correct. The golf course is 6 figures in the hole, because when you create a fund for a specific purpose, and if you have debt that's tied to it, the debt goes with it to the new fund. You have to consider that there needs to be payments back to the general fund for services rendered. It's its own business, so that business needs to pay its overhead back to the general fund for services rendered. Now, is that a lot of money? I don't know how much that would be, but there's a long way to go to get it there without serious consideration to the fee structure that exists at the golf course. And I also know that those changes that probably are needed are unpopular amongst people who play at the golf course. We cannot just simply,
But necessary.
but necessary, because you can't, you're gonna reach a point that you can't just raise rates. I mean, could we have looked at raising rates? We did look at raising rates. Again, it does not materially move, to materially move the needle is necessary, but very unpopular changes to the way fees are structured up there. And that's kind of my spiel on that. I would love to see it go, but it's a very long conversation.
Wanna order some pizza? Yeah.
Penny Linkers. No, so how big is the debt still on the 3.5 million that we put in? How many years out do you think we get to that point where we'll bring that number down significantly enough to where the golf course? I know you said numerous years, but I was thinking more like in 3-4 years. I was thinking we can really accomplish.
So the debt for the improvements was split over 2 issuances.
Right.
The crux of that debt, 2/3 of it, I believe, just was on the July serial bond that's out for 13 years. Now, could you revisit that conversation when the equipment's paid off? Certainly, but that means you can't, and we've been doing lease purchase on the mowers up there.
Yeah.
If you want to move away from that, you gotta then have to do budget appropriations to buy it. It's almost better at this point to do lease purchase for that, just keep your payments level. You know, when those come on, that's what we did the last time. That we bought a set, I think in 16 or 17, then we bought another set in 20, with those are 5 years, so you just keep rolling those off. But it's not, unless if you want, I think the changes that need to be made, we can do it in 3 or 4 years. It's unpopular, it revolves around the season passes. The season passes up there.
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox. I said, the season passes up there are already very big issue. There are people who, and this is not Councilmember Going, there's people who up there who play for free, starting in the month of May. They're not paying for any, they're effectively not paying for the rest of the year. That's,
But I do want to point out, I think there's only 200 seat pass. And there's probably 1,200, 1,300 golfers that golf.
the 200 season pass holders who play how many times a week. I would look at it not as the right, yeah, and I'm not looking at, I look at it more as how many spots do they pick up on the tee sheet every
Right.
week? And it's not one, they count for 5 or 6 or 7.
And what we're going to save this for
Yeah.
our lovely Gia, okay? When we go over Gia, but some really good points, and Andy and Jim, Councilmember Gully, both make it. Councilmember Min.
And actually, looking at the increased cost, one of the things I was thinking about is climate change impacts us, it extends the golf season. And I don't know if we have a hard cutoff date for closing down the golf course, or if it becomes sort of weather dependent. I mean,
They give an estimate and whether.
It's dependent on weather and then when they do work on the greens. So
okay,
they're working on setting the date they're gonna, I don't wanna announce it, I don't think it has been. But they're working on the closing date now, and it's surrounded around weather, but also that they do this striking speed, but they aerate the greens and for the winter.
Got it.
And it's revolved around those 2 factors, I believe.
yeah, I'm sure that, that wiggle room
Certainly.
is the nice.
I think they opened earlier this year than they had years before. And it took Councilmember Gully's point. I do think we budget, I think, close to 1.1, if not over 1.1 million. It's certainly on track to do $1 million this year, which would be, that's been everybody's goal, get it to $1 million. And then see where it progresses from there.
Terry, that was George Rogers' dream.
It was.
It was. He used to tell me that every year when I go. I tell him he put a baseball field there with him.
think that was about the time we were getting like 650,000.
And
All right.
you were closed for.
Okay. Moving
All right,
on.
moving on.
All right, so number 4,
No,
Oh.
number 3 still. Youth services, the overtime, that 5K, what's that for?
deferred.
Okay, so we'll have to address that in GS.
That could be, if they go to I don't know if they go to meetings after hours, or if they do stuff on the weekends, it would be.
Whoever, supervisor is, if it's having a check, should be able to see him. Okay, thanks. Yes, Councilmember Figueroa.
Still waiting for.
I know,
Well, since last budget,
you know,
we had
the year,
the statistics and the outcomes. For the money that was appropriated.
Councilmember Figueroa is correct.
I
Okay.
wanted,
You're not in charge of them. If you could relay for next week, we need some hard data. Okay,
yes.
thank you. And we were all smiling because the kids are right back and forth. I love it. I love it. I feel like I'm at home. Let's go to pizza.
Yeah.
The second, number 3, I have the assessor consultant services, the 20K. I don't recall
12,
Karen.
The 20, that's, for appraisals. Not for tax certiorari, they're not for tax certioraries, but they are commercial appraisals. I believe she has, for our purposes, for the city purposes. When a pilot is being considered for a commercial property, Sharon enlists a third-party commercial appraisal to determine the assessed value for the end of the pilot, and then we still have to put them on the roll throughout the pilot period. So I believe that's what that group is.
If you could verify that, Andy, and have Sharon just email us, please. And who is doing commercial appraisal?
I would defer to Sharon.
Okay, if you could ask her, thanks. And Maria, consultant services went up 12.5. In the clerks, I take it that's the Humane Society.
No, I think that's,
That's the
No, it's 105.
That's the emergency services veterinary.
services for if dogs get found in the city and we don't know who they are, they want to go to emergency vet.
I'd like to talk about that, but probably not tonight, unless Greg would like to weigh in.
I'll just say that the ag markets law makes us legally responsible to provide care for strays that we seize. The Humane Society does not provide that care. They provide an initial sort of examination or something like that. But frequently Kevin takes them directly to the animal hospital because the dog is injured or dog or cat is injured or they're in some sort of distress.
I just got Kevin, I'm not kidding, an hour and a half ago or 2 hours right before coming here in the Berg, and he had a dog that was hit, nobody claimed, and he was bringing it to the humane, to the vet, I'm sorry. Did he go to the same one, Latham?
I think he's using,
There's a veterinary hospital. There's 2 of them in Latham. There's one that's called Latham Veterinary Hospital and there's one that's called Cabo.
there's one on Route 7 and one near the
They're like pretty close to each other.
one near the Sam's Club. I'm
Oh,
not sure which one. Does he use both or just one?
Just the Cabo District Veterinary one.
Now, I believe you and Maria were talking about potential legislation of some sort, or did that go awry?
Oh, there's, I mean, the recode Troy.
Yes.
No,
No.
that's the landlord. That's the landlord.
I don't think. that's
Oh, the
possible.
landlords who have abandoned animals in their buildings, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think.
We haven't really gotten very far, and I'm not,
I don't think it's even legal.
yeah, I'm not really seeing
I'm
it.
not even supportive.
I don't really,
Yeah.
I don't know how to do. Put it that way.
Yeah. So, it's a problem. That's a big chunk of money. So the one, this is specifically solely for emergency services, the 105 and the 12.5.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct. That's not including the amount that we're going to have to pay Mohawk Hudson Humane
Right.
Society for housing and sort of.
105.
Oh,
Hold on. The 12.5 is specific to the emergency services.
oh,
The 105 is the current Mohawk Hudson Humane Society
Okay.
budget plus the emergency service.
okay.
And it comes that the budget, the number to the left, it encompasses
It's
both.
combined.
The transfer amount is for the emergency
For the
services.
emergency. Okay, Andy, can you do us a favor of the 105? How much is for emergency service?
I can pull it.
All right, thanks.
I can tell you this, I had a dog that required an operation and a 2-day stay that was $5,800.
No, man. Oh my gosh.
You know, I can see that operation happening. And sees him.
Yeah, I have a bill right now, it's $9,000.
Really?
I know it's all multiple bills, everything.
Wow, okay, so I got my answer on that one. And then, we'll go to number 4.
So those are generally speaking transfers to get. The two we just discussed are requests from departments. The rest were accounts that had gone over budget that is an appropriation that would ideally get them through the remainder of the year.
Okay.
And then number 5 for the general fund, just so that the council is aware.
Oh, can we stay on number 4? Sorry. Workers' comp, 150K increase. Oh, that's in the water.
It's in water.
Sorry, we'll wait till water. Sorry. I have papers.
No, you're
that's
fine.
why.
So I just want to make the council aware that this moves $700,000 into the contingency, bringing it up to 1.4 million. You will see an ordinance appropriating that $1.4 million out very soon.
Okay.
To start the UFA contract that was just settled, we're finalizing the retro. Well, how we handle contracts with retro in the current year is we split it out over 2 payrolls. The first payroll, we implement the new salaries. The second payroll, we pay the retro so that we can freeze the retro period and then calculate the amount to be paid. So we're actually finalizing the retro this afternoon. So we'll be taking money out of the contingency for that. The police department may have some potential needs or has some potential needs that need to be, that they would like to get addressed prior to the end of the fiscal year. And we're meeting about Monday to see if there's budget appropriations available to satisfy those. And then there are some fire overtime is over budget, as you will see on the quarterly. So we'll have to address that as well.
But we'll get back. I apologize. The 904 for the demos. And well, that's not all re-levy. Correct?
I have to go back and see if anyone has paid their demo charges yet this year.
Because that might change that bottom line of 1.4, right?
No,
No?
so no, that won't impact it because it's recognized as it's billed. And then when it gets re-levied accordingly, I'm hesitant to say yes or no if that full balance will be re-levied, assuming that they're unpaid in full. Because that's that area, as I mentioned, that Rick and I will need to sit down and go through if there's notice of claim. Or if we not notice of claim, my function, if we have claims in or liens in against the property, at that point, we would not bring forward.
Okay. All right. Wanna move to garbage?
So garbage, similar notations. Number 2 would be the salary savings, 3, 100 account adjustments, Or I had to adjust the debt service fund $7,800 for short-term debt payments, and then adding an additional $85,000 to their contingency, bringing it up to $150,000. That as of right now, pending a review of the accounts with general services, I do not anticipate appropriating that $150,000.
Okay, any questions? Okay, and then lastly, the water fund.
So water, similar notations. I do want to note 2 items before I talk about the workers' comp.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do them together. There's a $75,000 increase to F 8330-303, a $75,000 increase to F 8340-303. And I'm going to, in conjunction, out of the contingency of $246,000. The water fund's going to use that $75,000 in at least one of those accounts, if not both of those accounts tomorrow. So there will be another transfer coming forward to add additional monies to the water fund. Something I'm working with Andrew Golden on and the other employees of the water fund to manage their budgets. In regards to workers' compensation,
Andy, you're able to allocate money before we fully pass it?
we do have that ability. It's something I've
You should have
discussed.
asked for special.
I apologize.
Yep.
And then workers' compensation is, we're self-insured and those are the claims.
A lot.
And trying to get it through the end of the year, I don't know if that will satisfy it.
Andy, has Benetech or anyone intervened on workers' comp?
They have no issue controverting cases. I think that's to some degree why they're a little unpopular. Because
But
they do
this is-
controver cases, yeah, but we did lose, well, not lose. We did have to have some payouts at work.
And how many employees are still out? Or did they?
They were, I haven't had a chance to verify that.
Okay. If you could, thank you. Did anyone else have any questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, I'll go to the regular meeting with some outstanding questions. Thank you, Andy. Ordinance 72 passes 7-0. Ordinance 73, ordinance authorizing settlement claim to WIC Albany Med Health System, SK8 Albany Med Center, plaintiff versus city attorney and for the fire department defendants, Rensselaer County Supreme Court case index number EF 2026268-511. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Is there a motion? So moved. Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Gully. Great. Thank you. We know it's from 1999,
2019.
2019, sorry. I went back another 10 years. 20 years. I'll let you must know, though, I am living back in the 80s and 90s, okay? I'm not. Remember, the 50s are the 30s, the 40s are the. Okay, and the 60s are just whatever.
60s for the time.
That was great. Thank you, Rick. Andy, thank you.
Well, so this is a decent settlement of a heavily litigated matter. We initially got the first claim dismissed. They refiled and there were several motions and different things. Actually, there's a notice of appeal somewhere, but we settled it for about 55 cents on the dollar, I guess. Plus, they aired their litigation. Pardon? 11,000 out of 20. 11 out of 20, correct. Check.
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
I'm a little confused. Did he back into the door?
He allegedly backed into a decorative element. That's what made it so expensive. It's molded, especially molded concrete. Why it was there, how badly it was damaged on Swedish.
Like, you usually have those
Yeah, those bumpers, yeah.
boulders out in the ground that usually protect them when we get close to anything.
I think I alleged that they were negligent in not having.
I mean, I would think it's required. Check with our code.
It was only then.
Let's check with there. No, anyways, I can appreciate just so long. That's a lot of money for a decorative piece.
It is,
Even 11 grand is a lot of money for a decorative.
it is, I agree.
Plan to cover it up.
Any further questions, discussion? Thank you, Rick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 73 carries 7-0. Last but not least, ordinance 100, or resolution, sorry. 100, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into memorandum of understanding with the Capital Region Transportation Council or the development of a regional vision zero CP action plan. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Conley Wilson, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Steele.
Chair,
Yes.
so I was contacted, me and Silver was contacted, from, Steve Nichols, who works for, the Capital Region Transportation Council. I was just wondering if we could amend this, so every time it says DRTC, they're like renaming themselves.
Okay,
Could it just be like Transportation Council instead?
so they're taking out the capital.
They want to just be referred to as the Transportation Council, not abbreviated because they get used for CDCA.
So guess what? I thought this was incorrect and it was CDCC, which is an MPO. So who is the Capital Region Transportation Council? That is your name. Yeah, oh, so.
But they just want to be called the Transportation Council.
It's like the former, yeah, like the sign. It's hard.
Okay. Yes, we have a motion on the floor to amend this to the Transportation Council. Councilmember Conley Wilson, I will second that motion. Further discussion, North Route, the Reso will amend it to that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Be carried to the Transportation
Council.
Yeah.
Now, on the amended resolution, is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Conley Wilson, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Ben. Take it away, Dylan. I did read some of it, but.
It's a program. I don't know what it is.
Oh, Marianne, no.
Oh. Thanks. So I'll try to be brief. This is it's a program that was started. It's actually an application into the feds for about it's over $1 million. It's a grant to basically look at the safety of a number of different streets here in the region. They're going to be working with a consultant. They recently put out an RFP, which you guys have a copy of attached to the memo. And they're going to be looking at a number of really high impact traffic crossings that have a lot of death, have a lot of bicycle accidents, et cetera, to try to come up with a strategy to implement across the rest of the region in similar places. It is going to be a joint effort between Albany, I believe, without looking at the list in front of me, Cohoes, a couple other cities as well that are local, and we're putting in a match. It's going to be paid for out of the IDA because this is something that Steve actually put in motion before he left. We didn't have it in the budget, so we're going to be doing it through the IDA, and we're going to be a part of the study that starts probably next year. Should take maybe 4 to 5 months, and then from there, we're hoping that Troy will actually be one of the locations where that gets studied. So that we're actually a critical part of it, and be looking at an intersection to be determined.
That's cool. I did notice the timeline in the agreement we're behind. Does that need to be amended or no?
The not
I
sure.
mean, we wouldn't amend that, but,
They're okay with it. The only thing we want to make sure we got right with the name.
and all the other munis are obviously on board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Discussion, further question, Councilmember Conley?
I know the, Complete the Streets Advisory Board, they put together a really great report from us last year. I'm wondering, do you have that and have you sent that over to the consultant? It like indicated all that in collisions and all.
I haven't, but I know they have. It. And I believe they're working with Complete Streets, the organization,
Okay.
as well on this.
So, okay.
Yep.
We also have an advisory board through the city, so if they can also be consulted in some sort of way or that's the consultant.
That's really helpful. What I'll do is I'll talk to Angie. She's going to be leaving this one from our office. So I'll talk to her, and make sure that she puts that information out there.
Great.
Dylan, thank you. Honestly, I would have put the reso up beforehand. To let your family and you go.
This is like the break.
Okay. No further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, reso 100 carried 7-0. I do want to thank Officer LaChance back there for hanging out all this time and listening to some of our fun, witty comments. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? So, oh, we have a tie here. Councilmember Steele, give it 2. And Councilmember Conley Wilson, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.